Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic has reported that the Nationals could be zeroing in on a potential new GM hire. And guys, this is surprising.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And yes, I'm your host, Ryan Clary, one of the Locked On Nationals insiders for you here today. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. And later on in today's program, we'll have a discussion about the Lerner family potentially being back in on this Nationals team, and also talk about the Nationals and the Marlins series as well. And then in the second segment, there are a lot of names mentioned in this new GM search, although the Nationals are potentially zeroing in on one high candidate for this Nationals GM job, and this is very interesting. So let's talk about that. But today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So Ken Rosenthal had this yesterday, late last night, and Bob Nightingale as well, that they have reported that Cubs general manager has already had an interview with the Washington Nationals regarding their vacant GM job today. I'll be the first one to say this. If the Nationals make this hire, I would be thrilled with where the Nationals are as far as their direction going forward. Now, there's a lot of things to unpack with Carter Hawkins. My number one just kind of reaction right now is that this would be a huge get for the Washington Nationals and also the Lerner family ownership group. Carter Hawkins comes from a background that checks all of my boxes. Number one, played at the University of Vanderbilt, has some background in baseball, and also came from a Cleveland Guardians organization of which he was there for basically well over 10 years. And he came from a heavy analytics background, really honing in on developing and drafting. That is exactly what the Nationals have not done for a decade plus. Carter Hawkins has a track record of developing talent. He has a track record of drafting great talent, and he has a track record of also putting together some really good postseason teams, not just with the Chicago Cubs, but also with the Cleveland Guardians. At first glance, this would be a huge hire for the Washington Nationals. And just to kind of give you some perspective of where this is, a few weeks ago, I said that it was going to be Mike DeBartolo. I thought that this Lerner ownership group would kind of sit there and be like, you know what? Mike DeBartolo, he kind of answers what we have asked for. He's heavy into analytics. He has that background in it. He has been in this organization for a while. There really is no adjustment to be made as far as that goes. And quite frankly, he's done a good job in the past few months here as the interim GM. That was my true thought process. And now seeing Ken Rosenthal and Bob Nightingale, and also a few Cubs beat reporters discussing this as well, that the Nationals have not only had interest in Carter Hawkins, the GM of the Cubs, but they have also interviewed him. That is a good thing. And if you look at Cubs Twitter right now, my first reaction was, wow, that the Nationals are actually in on Carter Hawkins. And I was kind of like expecting Cubs fans to be like, no, don't take our GM. This is someone who has built this thing from the ground up. He has put together a very good organization. He has spent some money in some key places. He got Kyle Tucker. And while he, has done a really good job developing some prospects. But then I saw the Cubs fans and they said, please go take him. Literally, if you look at Cubs fans right now, they are celebrating in the streets saying, please take Carter Hawkins. Why would that be? I'll be the first one to say it, Cubs fans, you're wrong. Carter Hawkins, while you might be crushing him, Cubs fans, saying that he has been the downfall of the Cubs this season, and he's the reason why we didn't send off all of our prospects to get a Mackenzie Gore type of talent. You're wrong. He had one comment that really turned Cubs fans against him. And that comment was, practically, I'm going to paraphrase here, but he said that the 2032 Cubs are practically as important as the 2025 Cubs. What he meant to say is this: we are not going to give up some of our top prospects for major league ready talent now. And quite frankly, you shouldn't. When you are so early and really breaking out right now, like a Cubs team, like they are right now, you should not be giving away your talent, especially if it's considered too much. You don't know what teams were asking for, like the Nationals trying to get a Mackenzie Gore. So as far as that goes, to bring it back to Nationals baseball here, the reason why Cubs fans, you might be thinking to yourself, like, why are people celebrating this? And why do they want Carter Hawkins gone? Is this a bad GM? No, they're upset that he did not go all in on this team. They are upset that they did not go all in on 2025 and trade away their entire farm system for this season. Carter Hawkins has set them up for a future of success, regardless of what they did this trade deadline. They have done a great job. In working under Jed Hoyer, one of the game's best executives, the president of baseball ops for the Chicago Cubs, he's done a good job. And again, this is a baseball lifer. Someone who went to Vanderbilt, someone who is in the R&D department with the Cleveland Guardians, someone who has overseen development of the minor leagues for years now. He has perfected his craft. The biggest complaint for the Washington Nationals right now is that they have not been able to develop talent at a steady rate. The Cubs might be one of the premier teams right now under Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins that have done exactly that. That is exactly what we need. That is what we want and what we need. If you were to tell me that Carter Hawkins would be the GM of this season, sign me up today. Because quite frankly, also in this story, like not even in the story, but this is just pure speculation on my behalf. The fact that the Lerner ownership group that has yet to spend any money post-pandemic, literally, they are trying to go out there and they are big game hunting at this point. They are trying to get a GM to take another GM job here in DC that might be a sideways move for him. But also, the fact that they are interviewing him, the fact that they are showing interest in him, also may mean that they might be willing to spend to get that here in DC. That is a crucial part that isn't necessarily mentioned in this story, but for Nationals fans and wondering if the Lerner family might be bought back in, that's a big detail that I think should not be slept on in this. Maybe they were tired of Mike Rizzo. Maybe there was some kind of behind the scenes backlash between the Lerner ownership and the Rizzo, whatever you want to say, with Mike Rizzo. That is something that I also think is a really intriguing part of this story with Ken Rosenthal. But also, let's get back to Carter Hawkins real quick, because this would be, for me, one of the ideal hires. I have one name in mind that I'm going to get to in just a few minutes here that was kind of mentioned in this article as well. And there are a lot of other names as well that were mentioned in this that I do want to get to here in the second segment. But Carter Hawkins has interviewed with this job. He declined to comment when a Cubs beat reporter asked him about that. That's typically kind of, you're guilty by association there if you're declining to comment. If he didn't interview for the job, then he would have said, no, that's not true. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Cubs. And he did not say that. He declined to comment, which is telling me I have interviewed for this job. And the fact that he has interviewed for this job obviously shows interest that, hey, he might be wanting to go out on his own limb and run his own baseball operations and see what he can do in DC. This is pretty wild. I'm not going to lie. On September 10th, I was not expecting the Nationals to really kind of zero in on a GM during the season. I thought this was something that would be handled in the offseason, but overall, it's not just Carter Hawkins. There are a lot of other intriguing names as well that we'll get into after this. And yes, you've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. Well, there are so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. And this is why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. And I started noticing less shedding and healthier looking hair after using Nutrafol. And whether you are at work or out with friends, you feel confident with a full head of hair. So if you want to see thicker and stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol, you can use our friends at Nutrafol. And for a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB. Again, use the promo code for $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com. Also, let's tell you guys about our friends over at Gametime. And yes, we have talked about Gametime, and there is nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees. It takes all the fun out of it, and that is why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. And you'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price that you pay. And the app is just made super simple. I could see the exact view from my seats on my phone before purchasing, and also fees are already included. You don't have any extra tack on fees that you may not even notice. Gametime gives you exactly what you see is exactly what you get. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Again, visit the Gametime app and download Gametime. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So we are reacting to the Ken Rosenthal piece, as the Nationals have already interviewed, according to Bob Nightingale, as well as Ken Rosenthal, GM of the Chicago Cubs, Carter Hawkins, for their vacant GM job today. But there's also some other names mentioned kind of in this. And, this seems like some speculation from Ken Rosenthal. But in this piece, he mentioned a few names that are some pretty big names here for the Nationals. And in my opinion, this seems pretty ambitious by the Nationals ownership group to really kind of get into this. So the names that were also mentioned as some possibilities, #1 was the vice president of the D-backs, Emil Sadeh. And if you look at him and his background, he comes from the Boston Red Sox. He was with the D-backs GM. Unfortunately, I'm blanking on his name at this point in time, but he was with them, went over to the D-backs, helped them win a 2023 NL pennant, and has really done a good job of developing talent for them. And that's kind of something that, again, he has overseen, the development department with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So that is one name that was really intriguing as well. But a name that I think a lot of people might want to be a little interested in is a senior vice president of the LA Dodgers, Josh Burns, who oversees the Dodgers farm system. They have the #1 farm system in baseball today, according to MLB.com, MLB Pipeline, all the different websites that you check. That would be a slam dunk hire. I mean, again, give me the best. If you are getting me someone from the LA Dodgers organization, sign me up for that. If you're going to give me someone from even a Cleveland Guardians organization, sign me up for that. Teams that develop talent is where the Nationals should be looking. You need someone with that insight today. And where I kind of sit with this is that it feels as if the Lerner ownership group finally sees a new path forward. Mike Rizzo came from the boots on the ground, scouting, old school style way. That still works in some cases. I still like that system in a way, but also today's game is about analytics. I would say about 75% of GMs or successful GMs out there are heavy in on analytics. That does not mean that you should not meet with someone person to person first before you draft them, before you give them a big international signing bonus. Obviously, that still plays a role here. But also, being this ambitious about guys that are already in on analytics and that have these R&D backgrounds, the way that Josh Burns and Emil Sade does, and as well as Carter Hawkins with the Chicago Cubs. Like, this tells me that this ownership group wants to go in on this analytics thing. A big story of the Washington Post this past season from Spencer Nussbaum actually was about the Nationals not really getting this in-stadium batting practice help, which kind of gives guys the ability to face Aaron Nola through an AI machine practically, and they give them exactly what kind of fastball that he throws, the same spin rate, the same curveball, and you could do that for any registered pitcher in Major League Baseball. The Nationals did not invest in that. They're one of 5 teams that did not have that at their stadium. That's wrong. You got to have that. So this kind of feels like a new step forward for this team. And this feels as if that the Lerner ownership group is saying, hey, we might realize that, yeah, we haven't been the best of owners, but we also know where we have gone wrong. We have not invested in analytics. So taking this next GM hire and having it be an analytical guy would be a huge step forward for this team. A name that was briefly mentioned in this piece, and it was just kind of dropped there in the middle, that hasn't really been talked about earlier, but I actually tweeted it out over at Ryan Clary 11 earlier this morning. And I mentioned this from the article when I was reading it. The Nationals, or Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic, went to the Cleveland Guardians and asked if that they had GM Mike Chernoff, he's been contacted about the GM opening of the Washington Nationals, and they declined to comment. That is an interesting thing here, and here's why. If he was not involved with the search, and if he was not interested in the search, wouldn't you have someone say, he has not interviewed, and he's a Cleveland Guardian, he's going to be our guy moving forward? Could the Nationals also be in on one of the best executives in baseball, in my opinion, Mike Chernoff? I think it's a real possibility. And in fact, I will say this right now. Mike Chernoff would probably be my number one candidate, even over Carter Hawkins of the Chicago Cubs, for many different reasons. Number one is this. He develops talent. He has put together a very good baseball team in Cleveland for basically 10 years now. And even then, if you look past it, that is a very good organization with the Cleveland Guardians. If the Nationals were to go after Mike Chernoff of the Cleveland Guardians at this point, what a steal that would be. I mean, we don't know at this time. It feels as if right now things are going to be coming out. We're going to be talking about a lot of this right here in Locked On Nationals. And again, there's going to be a lot of rumors for these next weeks. But if the Nationals are going in on this new approach with this, new analytical kind of guy here in DC, Mike Chernoff would be the guy for my team. If I'm going in this, if I have a seat at the table with the Lerner family, I'm saying do whatever you can to get Mike Chernoff. But also, with that in mind, why would he want to leave the Guardians? Actually, kind of makes sense to me. Number one, you know that the Cleveland Guardians will never spend a dime. They will never spend a dime. That is a small market. And again, good organization, solid. They're pretty, they help themselves enough. But that is a ballpark that and a team that will never spend inside the top 10. While the Nationals have not done that, and while we have crushed them, rightfully so, for not spending, not just off the field, but also on the field, at least there is a track record of times with the Nationals having top 7 payrolls in baseball, top 10 consistently in payrolls in the 2010s. Maybe this might just be a promotion in turnoff size. And even then, not just him, but also like a Josh Burns or an Emil Sade type that the Nationals may just be that step up. And maybe they know something that we don't. Maybe the Lerner family does plan to go back in, or maybe down the road after a potential lockout in 2027, maybe the Lerner family might just sell the team. Or maybe with a new payroll structure, maybe that changes the way that they incentivize free agents and the way that they spend their money and the way that they want to spend to make this team better. The opportunity is here in DC. And right now, I don't care what anyone says, the Guardians are a much better organization than us. But the ceiling of what the Nationals could be down the road, again, what they could be down the road is much higher than what a Guardians team would do. That's what I believe in. And so seeing that here in town, seeing that the Nationals are in on some of these top guys like Carter Hawkins, the GM of the Chicago Cubs, Mike Chernoff potentially of the Cleveland Guardians, and wanting to hone in on guys from the Dodgers organization like a Josh Burns who oversees their farm system, or a Emil Sade who has been there and done that and won a couple World Series with the Red Sox as one of their top decision makers. That's intriguing. That is very intriguing for this Nationals team. And honestly, it really might get into what is a new direction of this organization. And that new direction starts with analytics. It's going to be exciting times with the Washington Nationals moving forward here. And I can tell you this team and where they stand today, maybe, just maybe, this team has got things covered moving forward. So thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen. Next, let's talk about this. The Nationals and the game that they played yesterday and the game that they played today as well against the Miami Marlins. And also the Nationals, don't let them get hot. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And yes, let me tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. And the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet, whether it's player props, building a same game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. This weekend, I had my Commanders with a Bill Krosky-Merritt anytime touchdown, and as well as the Commanders money line. I won some money while watching my favorite team win. And in tomorrow's game, guess what? I'm running it back. Commanders money line against the Packers, and as well a Bill Krosky-Merritt anytime touchdown prop. Why not? I'm going to win that bet, hopefully with our friends at FanDuel, and also enjoy some action that you can also enjoy with our friends at FanDuel. So if you're ready to play, you can download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Again, hit FanDuel.com. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And Dalen Lyle, basically, we are the Locked On Dalen Lyle show at this point. The numbers that Dalen Lyle has put up recently are just absurd. He has a 777 OPS on the season so far, and a 282 batting average. Yesterday, he hit his 5th home run of the season, and right now, he has been crushing the baseball for the Washington Nationals. I think it's safe to say at this point, forget everything else. Dalen Lyle has been a massive success story for the Washington Nationals. And going forward, he is going to be a big part of this team. Seeing what he has been able to do in just 74 games right now is out of this world. And if you look at his numbers overall as well for his past 30 games, he is batting .339 with a .554 slug and a .383 OBP, and also only 19 strikeouts over his last 30 games. Again, the player profile of Dalen Lyle makes me think that this guy could be a star player for the Nationals. Not an MVP caliber kind of player, not a James Wood kind of ceiling, but just a very good all-around major league kind of player. The offensive ability for Dalen Lyle at this point, he is a top 2 hitter on this team. And it's really just behind James Wood. That's all I would take. As of right now, I'm taking Dalen Lyle over Dylan Cruz. As of right now, I'm taking Dalen Lyle over CJ Abrams and Brady House. And what he has done over the course of a pretty limited time here has been jaw-dropping. And you have seen that with Dylan Cruz in this lineup and with a healthy Dalen Lyle as well, this Nationals team has completely revamped themselves. And they have really put themselves in contention to be a solid upcoming team next season. I mean, again, watching what Dalen Lyle has done for this Nationals team has completely kind of changed my thought process in the second half. I thought this team would be, like a bottom dweller team, like Ken Rosenthal said we were earlier on this season. I thought that Dalen Lyle would, be fine, make some noise, but ultimately probably struggle a little bit. But no, he has been an everyday major leaguer that, in my opinion, is invaluable to this team at this point. I have been stunned by the way Dalen Lyle has played. Stunned, truly. And seeing what the Nationals have done as of recent, again, they have won 4 straight games. They have won 7 of their last 10 games at this point, and they are now only 4.5 games back from the Atlanta Braves for 4th in the NL East. And some people were laughing yesterday. I saw you guys in the comment section. I saw you saying, I was like, maybe the Nats won't lose 100 games. And some people were like, you're ridiculous. They're going to lose 100 games. I don't know. You never know at this point. I mean, this team is red hot right now. They figured it out. You're seeing this Nationals offense really play well and play up to their standards that we all thought they could play from game 1. And as we saw in yesterday's game as well, Mitchell Parker pitched his butt off against the Miami Marlins. So seeing that and what they did, kudos to the Nats. Really tough, place to play with Miami, a hard hitter's park, but they have completely turned things around, and they have put up 7 runs in yesterday's game, and then Monday, the game 1 of this series, they put up 15 runs. So what will they do today against a pretty poor Marlins staff, going up against Yuri Perez again for the Washington Nationals? So I think this is going to be interesting because, again, Yuri Perez gave up 7 earned runs his last start out against the Washington Nationals just 1 week ago. And now he goes up against the Nationals again today, and let's see what he does, because the Nationals, while again, this has been a bad season, but you've got one of your guys going tonight. Maybe the Nationals can make some noise. You got Jake Irvin. We'll see what he could do. And he desperately needs a good start to really bounce back from this thing. So loaded show today. A lot to talk about the future of the Nationals. But make sure you stay tuned right here, Locked On Nationals. And again, look up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts and hit that subscriber button, please, so you can stay tuned on the latest with the GM search of the Washington Nationals. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.